Today I'm going to be talking about all the things I watched in July. It was a little bit of a lighter month for me. I was gone for a week and a half, 2 weeks, so not as much this month, but we're still going to hop into it here. First thing I watched was actually a rewatch. I rewatched Dune, the first Dune. Kind of semi in preparation for the third one that's coming out in December, which I'm super excited for. I did also watch the second part, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, I love Dune. I love this one. I think this one grew on me a little bit with a second watch here. It's definitely slower and definitely serves as kind of just more build up in comparison to the second Dune. But I think it's still super effective in what it's trying to do. I love the use of visual effects here, visual effects that kind of blend in and don't distract and really feel grounded and realistic in a really satisfying and fresh way. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about it other than that, but just a great way to set the tone for this trilogy, and like I said, definitely grew on me with a second watch here. Next thing I watched here was Ratatouille. I obviously had seen this when I was a kid, but I haven't watched it as an adult, so this was an interesting one to check out here. Obviously, I've heard a lot of good things about this, and you know, it holds up as an adult. I don't think actually this this film really would hit hard as a kid, because I feel like a lot of it, I don't know, would kind of go over my head as a kid. But yeah, it's kind of the story. I mean, everybody knows the story. I don't have to explain the story. Honestly, I don't have too much to say about this. Just really enjoyable, really kind of a heartwarming story. I do want to spend some more time on some of these later films though, so we're gonna move on here. Like I said earlier, I also rewatched Dune Part 2. Yeah, I absolutely love this film. It's close to 5 stars for me. It's just, oh man, it's just everything that was great about the first Dune just elevated to the next level. Obviously, there's a lot more happening in terms of the story here. But yeah, I love Paul Atreides, his kind of slow descent into kind of a villain in this story. Kind of. I assume they're going to explore that even further in Dune Part 3. That seems like that's what they're going to do from the trailer that I've seen. But yeah, I mean, you got there's just so much to this film. I love the entire like black and white section in what's the Harkonnens' planet? I don't remember what their planet is, but that section is unbelievable. Austin Butler is great in this film. I love Zendaya's character, and I love the direction that they take her in this film, of her being kind of the one anti-Paul, the one anti-Muad'Dib person, and kind of how she ends up, or where her character ends up at the end of this film, is absolutely heartbreaking. So I'm excited to see how they explore, how they further develop her character in the third film. Yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic. It's so epic. You know, it's such an obvious thing to say, but it's just so epic. It's so good, man. It's so good. I even like watching this not on the big screen, just watching it on a little TV is like just so unbelievably good. So I can't wait for Dune Part 3. I'm so excited for it. Next thing I watched here was Blue Moon. This was directed by Richard Linklater. It came out last year, starring Ethan Hawke. Margaret Qualley's in this as well. Yeah, this was great. This is a very kind of a chamber piece, I guess you would call it. Kind of all takes place in this one bar. Ethan Hawke does a lot of yapping in this movie. It's kind of a very personal and very introspective film for his character. He plays a songwriter, I believe, that has worked with this one guy for a long time, and this other guy that he worked with just released Oklahoma, or just wrote Oklahoma. So it kind of dives into his jealousy around that. Kind of dives into his own artistic insecurities, I guess. And yeah, just the writing here is beautiful. I do really like, this is kind of the thing, I guess, that Richard Linklater is known for within his films, is just like, just the writing, just the dialogue. But I found this to be a lot more engaging than Before Sunrise, which that film, a lot of the writing felt fake deep to me. It felt kind of forced, whereas the writing here felt a little bit more mature, and it just like, I don't know, it hit harder for me. What else is there to say? Just kind of a heartbreaking character on display here, but also kind of a very lovable character at the same time. It's a really complete complete character that you get to see all these different sides of, which I think is really engaging. Next thing I watched here was Basic Instinct. This is kind of like a semi-erotic thriller. I'll just say erotic thriller from the 90s. Obviously, I've heard about this film a lot. It's kind of a cult classic, right? Just not quite my thing. I think this film thinks it's smarter than it is, you know? Like every story beat is just so obvious, and it's kind of hilarious because of that. Like, the main guy detective here is just so stupid. Like, it's so funny how stupid he is. Obviously, Sharon Stone, is that who this is? I think so, yeah. She plays this kind of like alluring, seductive female killer that kind of strings this detective along with her. There's a couple filmmaking moments here that I really do enjoy. I think the cinematography is actually kind of excellent. It has this gritty and textured feel to it that if this movie were made now, I just feel like it wouldn't have. But like the story in general and just some of the dialogue is so unbelievably corny. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's not quite for me. It doesn't do much for me. Next thing I watched here was Midnight Cowboy. This came out in '69. Gave it 3.5 stars. I think I wanted to enjoy this more than I did. There's certainly, I mean, the editing and the style of this film is insane, and I feel like it's kind of very ambitious for 1969. I don't know, I just found the story to be a little bit thin, to be honest. I felt like there was a lot more that they could have done with this story. Dustin Hoffman is great in this. I mean, everything I've seen him in, he's just absolutely fantastic. He plays like this sleazy slime ball character here that kind of also has a very tender side to that character as well that you slowly unravel as the film goes on. You know, it's kind of about this cowboy from Texas that moves to New York, moves to the big city, and he has to make his way through prostitute work, or as in he kind of, you know, grapples with his own self-consciousness, with his own identity, as, you know, this line of work doesn't really work out for him in New York. Kind of a classic fish out of water story. And like I said, some of the editing choices here and just the filmmaking is great. I just felt like the story I didn't fully connect to. Next thing I watched here was Gummo. I have heard a lot about this film as well. This was directed by Harmony Korine, who also directed Spring Breakers, I believe. This film is downright disgusting. It kind of lacks a traditional story. It lacks traditional beats. Doesn't really have a plot to it. It kind of portrays this town that I believe is post a tornado, and it's kind of this Midwest run-down town with a lot of interesting characters, a lot of interesting figures here. And every scene just kind of covers a different character. A lot of these scenes don't necessarily tie together in a obvious way, but it's kind of just a bunch of different character portraits, which I think is kind of interesting. The one thing I can speak to here is the casting. I know a lot of these characters were just like real people, casting real people, which isn't like a new thing. A lot of films do that, but yeah, just the ability to cast such interesting people, interesting looking people, but also just people that have an interesting way of speaking. Yeah, a lot of these characters just continue to run in my mind. I continue to see them, especially the kid on the cover, on the poster. Next thing I watched was The Killing of a Sacred Deer, directed by Lanthimos, of course. I have seen almost every Yorgos Lanthimos film at this point, and I really, really enjoyed this one. This is the story of a young man that has his, spoilers I guess, his father is killed in a surgery. And because of that, as an act of vengeance, he targets the surgeon's family and begins to do destructive things to them. That's the way I'll put it. Yeah, I really, really enjoy this film. I love the way it's shot. I love a lot of the wide shots that are used here. I mean, that's a very Yorgos Lanthimos things. That's a very Yorgos Lanthimos thing. You see that a lot in The Favorite as well as Poor Things, of course. I feel like it's really used effectively here, though, to make these characters just feel isolated and alone in a really disturbing and depressing way. Barry Keoghan is fantastic here. He plays this like dark, demented teenager with such like nuance, and he brings such his own like weird way of speaking to it in a really interesting way, kind of similar to the character that he plays in Saltburn, but obviously this film is so much better than that. Yeah, there's a scene where the surgeon, the dad, has to make a decision to get rid of one of his family members. It's a hard watch. I kind of started losing it at that point, because just like emotionally I started crying at that point, because it's depicted in such a blunt and like real and authentic way, and it just hurts. It hurts so bad. It hits so hard, man. It's crazy. Next thing I watched here was The Cat in the Hat, 2003. I saw this as a kid, obviously, and I don't know how I saw this as a kid, because this is one of the most horrifying movies I've seen in a while. This might be scarier and more disturbing than The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know what they thought they were cooking with this movie. Part of me kind of loves it because of how outlandish it is. I mean, like, the production design is bonkers. The dialogue and the writing is horrific at points. Mike Myers, his performance as the Cat in the Hat is terrifying. He is terrifying in this movie. Again, I don't know how I watched this as a kid, because it's clearly like a movie made for kids, but it's just got this like sadistic undertone to the entire thing. Like, the whole premise of this weird guy in a cat costume that spends a day with these kids that are home alone and tearing up the house and I get that it's supposed to be from the point of view of like the kids, where it's like, this is everything a parent tells kids not to do, so it's like appealing for kids in that way. But it's just I think it mainly comes down to the performance from Mike Myers. He is terrifying in this. And maybe it's also the costume too, like the fact that it's clearly just like a guy. It's just a guy in a cat suit, like, feels kind of predatory in a way. I don't know why. It rubs me the wrong way. It's kind of scary. All right, next thing I watched here was 8th Grade, directed by Bo Burnham. Came out in 2018. I've also heard quite a bit about this film, and yeah, I wanted to check it out here. I think it's one of the better movies I've seen from a YouTuber, if we can call Bo Burnham that. I mean, he's kind of a YouTuber. I would say he's more of a comedian, but yeah, pretty solid film here. Kind of dives into the difficulties of middle school, the difficulties of wanting to fit in, of wanting to be confident. Kind of heartbreaking at times. Some of these scenes are straight up cringe-inducing, which they're trying to be, of course. Really a great performance from Elsie Fisher. I really do buy her as an 8th grader. Like, it feels real. Dives into a lot of these ideas and a lot of these struggles that kids have in a really authentic and Hollywood-ified version of it. You know, I feel like I identify. I vividly remember, you know, being in 8th grade and relating to a lot of these specific feelings or specific scenes and circumstances. Like, especially the whole idea of being invited to like a birthday party that, you know, clearly the person does not want you to be there, but the mom forced her to invite you to the party, and it's just that uncomfortable feeling. And I mean, the whole thing of her being like a YouTuber, I relate to a lot. I started my YouTube channel when I was 12, I think I must have been. What grade are you in when you're 12? I think grade 6, right? Must have been. So I heavily relate to that whole side of this film as well. You know, the idea of not even having your own life figured out, but like trying to put on this image of confidence for the internet, which is like a really interesting and kind of conflicting idea that I had in my mind at that time and that she has in her mind here. My one gripe with this is just like filmmaking wise, I think the cinematography is a little bit bland and plain, and the music at times is kind of rough, in my opinion. It's some really strange music choices that I think don't go over very well, and I honestly don't think have aged very well, which is interesting because this is only 2018, but it already feels kind of dated. Next thing I watched here was F for Fake. This is directed by Orson Welles, who obviously directed Citizen Kane, which I actually haven't seen. I know it's kind of crazy to watch this before Citizen Kane, but I heard Matt Johnson. I'm a big Matt Johnson fanboy right now. I heard him talking about this film on a podcast and his love for it and how it has inspired his filmmaking. So I really wanted to check it out. It's kind of a mix of, I mean, I'll just call it a documentary. I mean, it has some staged moments, but it's mostly documentary. The central thesis of this is how art can be faked and how art is essentially a lie. So a lot of the documentary talks about this art forger who obviously forges art and is able to accurately forge and recreate paintings from like legendary painters, and he's, you know, able to sell these obviously at like crazy prices. So it dives a little bit into that. It also dives into this guy who I think wrote like a fake, but I'm trying to remember. He wrote a fake biography for Howard Hughes, I think. And these stories don't, I might be wrong on this. I'm trying to remember. These stories don't necessarily intertwine together, but they both just paint a picture of how art can be replicated and how it can be faked, and how it can fool people in a way. There's a moment at the beginning of this where Orson Welles says, "For the next hour, everything you're about to see is completely true," which automatically, when he says that, you automatically start to kind of doubt it. You're like, wait, is it true? Why would he say that? Why does he feel the need to say that? Eventually there's a point where that hour passes, because this film's like an hour and 20 minutes. So the last 20 minutes are fake, but the way that he does it, it's almost like a sleight of hand where you kind of forget that he says that at the beginning. So you almost, I mean, at least for me, I did buy everything that he was saying in the last 20 minutes, which is just kind of an interesting like meta commentary on the whole idea of art being inherently like a lie, you know, that we all choose to believe. Next thing I watched here was Paths of Glory, directed by Stanley Kubrick. I watched this on a plane, which, I don't know, maybe not the best way to watch it, but yeah, I enjoyed this. I think it's a little bit simplistic, I would say, compared to like his best work. It's definitely not swinging for the fences as much as something like 2001 or The Shining or even A Clockwork Orange or even Full Metal Jacket. It's on the shorter side. I think it's like an hour 20. It does have a lot to say about war. This is, you know, inherently kind of an anti-war film. It tells the story of this troop of soldiers that eventually retreat in battle because they know that they're screwed. You know, they got to get back to their what's it called? The little tunnel thing. I don't remember what it's called. So they retreat back to that because their captain or whatever, their sergeant tells them to retreat, so obviously they're going to. Eventually, 3 of these guys are chosen to be put on trial because it's obviously frowned upon to retreat. So it grapples with a lot of, you know, what it means to fight a war, what it means to be patriotic, what it means to fight for your country, and whether or not that should be the most important thing, you know, over, you know, one's own humanity. I mean, this film is blocked amazingly, and I mean specifically the blocking of the characters. Like, it's just kind of a lost art in a lot of films today. Like, the way that these characters are blocked is just it's so intentional, and it's so, you really pick up on it in a satisfying way. It's again really a lost art. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I do need to rewatch this. Maybe it will grow on me a little bit more, but it's still great. It's still fantastic. I just do think it's a little bit simplistic in what it's saying, and I wish it dived a little bit more into the ideas that it presents. Next thing I watched here was Nirvana the Band, the show. I kind of was watching this throughout the month. There's 2 seasons of this show. Obviously, earlier this year, I watched Nirvana the Band, the show, the movie, which is one of my favorite films of the year. I absolutely love it. So I had to check this out. It's kind of hard to find this, but I just found it on some, I don't know, random streaming, illegal streaming website. I think it is dropping on Hulu soon, which is cool. But yeah, I loved like pretty much every second of this. I do think there are a couple weaker episodes. The style of humor that Matt and Jay have is so distinct. It's so unique. But when it hits, it hits. Like, there's so many just little lines that stick in my head. The one that I'm thinking of right now is, I mean, obviously the genderless burger experience is hilarious and fantastic. I know none of these references will make sense if you haven't seen it, but if you have seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The quote is, "I've never negotiated before. I just said that so I could look tough in a library setting," which is so good. The whole, the Kramer bit is hilarious. I love that so much. For those of you who haven't seen it, the whole premise of this show is 2 guys that are trying to that have a band called Nirvana the Band. They're trying to get a show booked at the Rivoli, which is a concert venue in Toronto. And the whole point of this show, every single episode, is them trying to get a show booked at the Rivoli. And of course it never works. They never succeed, which is kind of the whole point. That's the whole bit. But they, of course, go about it in weird and wacky, wild ways. There's a whole moment where they try to get a poster, and they try and put it over the Rivoli so that everybody sees Nirvana the band. But when they take the photo, Jay's dick is on screen. His dick somehow comes out of his pants, so they have to kind of try and paint over his Johnson, you might say. A lot of this, of course, is dealing with real people or working with real people, which is kind of a lot of the movie as well. And they blend real situations with real people with the staged situations in such a seamless way, to the point where sometimes you don't even know what's real and you don't know what's fake, which is just so commendable and so impressive, in my opinion. Over the first couple episodes, I was really actively watching and actively trying to figure out, okay, how are they going about this? How, in a practical sense, are they making this? But it got to a point where I'm like, okay, I can't figure this out. I'm not cracking the code. So eventually I just gave in, and I just started appreciating the show for what it was instead of actively trying to figure it out, which I think gave me a new appreciation for it. I was able to just sit back and enjoy it as a piece of art rather than looking at the technical aspects of it. Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. These guys are so funny. They're so funny together. Their chemistry is fantastic, obviously, because they're lifelong friends in real life, and that really bleeds through the screen. You really feel that. But yeah, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It is absolutely fantastic. And there's a lot of references to obviously pop culture, television, film, a lot of references that I didn't catch, but there are, you'll see some references that you do catch, and they're integrated in really unique and funny ways. So please go watch this. Please go seek it out if you haven't seen it. It's fantastic, and I hope we get a season 3 at some point. All right, guys, here we go. The Odyssey. I saw it about 2 nights ago in theaters. What an experience! What a loud, maximalist, cinematic experience. I was a little bit skeptical going into this because, I like Christopher Nolan's films, but, oftentimes they feel, as many people have said, that, sometimes the dialogue isn't the best, sometimes the writing isn't the best, sometimes the whole gimmick of being a Christopher Nolan film that's, hard to understand takes precedent over, actually trying to craft a good story. But I was completely enthralled in this. I loved pretty much every bit of it. I think the beginning is a little bit slow, and it takes a bit for it to get started, but I think, after the Cyclops scene is really where this film hits its stride, and I was loving every bit of it after that. I mean, I don't even know where to start with this. I mean, I guess I'll start with the cinematography. Obviously, being shot fully in IMAX, the first film to be fully shot in IMAX. I didn't see it in IMAX, of course, but just a technical feat. Hoyt van Hoytema is the cinematographer here. The use of light and the use of space and these grand, wide shots is just excellent. You really feel every bit of this world. I've seen some people complaining about the costume design, which I think is interesting. I found it to be actually very, obviously it can't be fully grounded because we're talking about Greek mythology here, but it felt really grounded and realistic, which I thought was great because I just bought into the story that much more. It felt real. I felt like I was in these situations with these characters, which I think is what Nolan was going for. So I love the costume design, love the cinematography. The sound design is excellent. The soundtrack from Ludwig van Göransson, is that how you say it? Excellent. Of course, he's done Oppenheimer, he did Sinners, he's done a lot of great work recently. There's so much to talk about in terms of the technical aspects of this film. It's unbelievable. It's, as a cinematic experience, I don't think you're gonna get much better this year. If you just want to go to something and just be lost in it for 3 hours, this is the thing. This is it, Thematically and story-wise, it's honestly kind of similar to Oppenheimer. I'm not familiar with the original text of the Odyssey, of course. I've never read it. I'm not even familiar with, the whole thing of the Trojan horse, the battles at the walls of Troy. Now I'm familiar, of course, but so this was all fresh to me, which was pretty exciting as well. But yeah, going back to Oppenheimer, it deals a lot with like one man's guilt of, you know, what he's done to the world, you know, him betraying Zeus's law with the trick of the Trojan horse. You know, we dive into his regret, especially at the end of the film, his regrets around that, and, you know, the innocent people that his men have killed, and, you know, ultimately how breaking Zeus's law is kind of a sign of darker times to come for the world. So it really grapples with his own regrets in, again, a way that was very similar to Oppenheimer. It's like if you took the audience scene from Oppenheimer where he's speaking to that audience and eventually he sees visions of the dead people, you know? It's like if you took that scene and just expanded it out for an entire film with the backdrop of the Odyssey, you know, with the storytelling device of the Odyssey, which I thought was great. I really loved that direction that this film went in. I feel like if this film went in the direction of like just straight up portraying Odysseus as a downright hero, I would have felt a little bit conflicted at the end of it. The Cyclops scene, man, the Cyclops scream, I don't think I've ever heard anything as loud or demented or heartbreaking as that. Like, you really feel for the Cyclops in that scene. The Circe pig scene is disturbing. The final Odysseus, when he strings the bow scene, that scene has so much goddamn aura to it. It's insane. If you could put one word on this film, it's aura. It's just, the aura is off the charts on this. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. What a cinematic experience this was, and I kind of want to go see it again. And there you go. That's everything I watched this month. Again, a little bit of a lighter month, but yeah, really enjoyed most of the stuff here. So let me know if you have any thoughts down below. Make sure to go check out my Letterboxd if you're interested. Link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys in next month's video. Peace out.